and stuff. And so, I got to tell you, I don't know what to make of the Trump thing. I think this DA has made a really big mistake, and he just got Trump elected president in 2024 because um, it's such a difficult to follow case, and how it rises to a felony, I don't know. And the fact that I think that it just rallies people around. I mean, for God's sake, you got Ron DeSantis today saying he's not going to extradite him, which is against the Constitution. In Article 4 of the Constitution, it says that states will respect other states, blah, 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 blah. And Governor Inslee can't say, I won't extradite to a death penalty state. You can't do that. And so you have DeSantis doing this. And you know what? Like everyone who announced that they're running against Trump, then you have Lindsey Graham raising money for him on Fox last night. And here's Nikki Haley, who's a declared candidate for the Republican nomination.
From everything I've seen from this New York district attorney is that this would be something he'd be doing for political points. And I think what we know is when you get into political prosecutions like this, it's more about revenge than it is about justice. And, I think the country would be better off talking about things that the American public cares about than to sit there and have to deal with some revenge by some political people in New York.
I mean, there's really no doubt. That's not really about. They keep saying, well, no man's above the law. And then on Morning Joe, they keep emphasizing, well, this same DA's office in the last couple of years, they went after someone who defrauded an insurance company. They got $5,000 for a $1,900 couch after a fire. Okay, but what they fail to add is in all these cases where they're adding up these fairly petty prosecutions, they don't get convictions. And so I think that there is a certain part of the Trump base that's going to look at this and get very spun up. Though I don't think anyone wants to get arrested for this. But New York NYPD is taking it super seriously. And did you see that alert they sent out yesterday? They said every single officer of any shift must be in uniform this morning at 6 a.m. I mean, they're thinking that whatever the guy's name, Cat Turd, the guy, I think that's what he called himself, the guy who went into Pelosi's office shirtless, or the guy who went buttoned his shirt, the corn pone dude from Arkansas. They're thinking an army of those people are going to be descending on Manhattan.
This is quite the historical moment we're living through right now. And as you mentioned right at the top, there are still a lot of questions in light of this indictment than answers. The former president is going to face 34 counts when he's arraigned, and the specifics here are unknown to a certain extent. We know that it involves a $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels made by Michael Cohen at the request of Donald Trump, and whether or not he marked these as a legal expense or a reimbursement is kind of the crux of the case from what I understand. But even then, is it a misdemeanor? Is it a felony? Does it meet the standard? And I think that's where you get a lot of charges of this is a political prosecution here.
And this is where, you might have to be Alan Dershowitz to understand it, or
Right.
that DA or whatever.
I don't play a lawyer in real life
And
or
that's
on the
the
radio.
thing. For the average news consumer, it's just they're going after Trump. This is crap they do in Peru. And this is what, the guy who's the president of Brazil right now just spent 6 months in jail. And so, if your goal, and I have no doubt whatsoever, and by the way, I'm sorry for the anti-Semitism here, but George Soros backed this guy, and just apparently invoking that name means you're an anti-Semite. There's zero doubt whatsoever that this guy's agenda is to prevent Trump from. He thinks this is somehow going to prevent Trump from being elected again, not reelected, but elected again. And I think that if he was already opening a gap on DeSantis, it's bigger now. I mean, this is I don't know that this would energize anyone who didn't vote for him in 2020 to suddenly vote in 2024.
Right.
But I would say that this as a single blow, has done more to make more Americans cynical about partisanship than anything I've seen since when I was 9 during Watergate, which and I didn't know what partisanship was. That was a big word, big word now, and so I mean I just what's funny is even people on the far left, Trump haters, are saying, "Wow, no good can come of this." If this is the bell you ring, you can't unring it. If Biden gets reelected, or between now and the Trump trial, then it's full speed on Hunter.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate analysis. And there's two main aspects of this. One, what are the merits of the case itself? And two, what are the long lasting political implications
I think
of
question two
this?
is question one. I don't think I think this guy looked at a 1 meter target and said, "Oh, I'm going to be a hero." Here in
Well, that was
Manhattan,
clear. Alan Dershowitz has mentioned that a bunch of times. They got elected with the notion of getting Trump, and then they tried to just find something to get him on.
yeah, apparently that was his campaign. Was hey, I'm your Manhattan. Vote for me as Manhattan DA. I'll indict Trump. And it's like, well, is there that much animus locally against Donald Trump in New York? And yeah, there is. But I mean, if the King County prosecutor said, well, it's one time he flew through here, and I'll indict him for environmental damage or something, it's analogous to that. And the damage this does to our political system. And I remember back in the normal days when you just left it in Congress or whatever, and then someone lost an election or termed out, and they went retired and build Habitat for Humanity or opened a library or whatever. This is opening a Pandora's box that other democracies have gone through in the past, but it's not an indication that you're serious or you're mature. And I thought we were a little beyond this. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So Lindsey Graham is out pimping for Trump.
He's angry.
So what's behind all this? Hatred. They tried to destroy Kavanaugh because they wanted to keep the Supreme Court seat open. They're trying to destroy Donald Trump because they fear him at the ballot box. To the conservatives out there, make sure you vote. If you got friends, make sure they vote. If you don't have any friends, go make some friends. But you need to help this man, Donald J. Trump. They're trying to drain him dry. He spent more money on lawyers than most people spend on campaigns. They're trying to bleed him dry. DonaldJTrump.com. Go tonight. Give the president some money to fight this bullshit. This is going to destroy America. We're going to fight back at the ballot box. We're not going to give in.
Strong words from the delicate thunder.
Wow.
That is Lindsey Graham. And so
You'd think Kavanaugh was in the middle of a confirmation hearing or something.
yeah, and so I got to say, legendary historic events in American history. If Trump has to be present on Tuesday when they unseal the indictment and all that, that might be the most watched live TV since maybe January 6th or maybe in American history.
That is must-see TV.
A former president doing a perp walk. And
I don't think it's going to be a traditional perp walk in the sense that we
be the biggest,
understand it.
best perp walk of all time. Some say say the best ever.
He'll just walk into a building surrounded by Secret Service. I don't think he's going to have hands behind his back like
Some
all
say
those AI
some
generated
say the biggest
images.
building. Some say the best hands behind his back. Some
say.
have said the best handcuff wearing
People
of
are
all
saying.
time. Yeah, and so the word around Mar-a-Lago is that they were taking this DA for at his word when he said, "Well, we're going to take a month off," and then boom, there's an indictment. But so the word is that they want to choreograph it, and guess what? Turn it into a commercial. Of course, it's a commercial. It'll be a live commercial, probably the best live commercial of all time. Some say the best ever. They should maybe stop making live commercials after that. And and it's funny. It's looming. Okay, there's a Final Four this weekend. Opening day was yesterday. The whole thing, but Tuesday is going to be possibly one of the most significant days in American history because the ex-president's getting indicted over politics.
I love the casual tone with which you say that. It's like, have we really considered how momentous and consequential this is? And it's not hyperbole to say we're living history.
Yeah.
And how does this end? I mean, that's the big question on the table right now. Everybody is making predictions of how this ultimately pans out.
He's found not guilty. That's the thing.
Is
that
it tossed out?
Even in Manhattan, you got to be 12-0. Yeah, in a criminal trial, you got to be 12-0.
Well, that's the one place you might be able to potentially get that scenario.
And this guy thinks so. And good luck on that one. Or a mistrial, but it would be the best. Some say the biggest mistrial of all time.
Okay, but what's the responsibility of communicators, talking heads, and influential politicians and people on cable news at this time? Is it to advocate for calm? Is it to rile people up? I'm seeing the full spectrum here on this. One side is, hey, this is the rule of law, American jurisprudence at its finest, and even a president can't escape the long arm of the law. And then the other side of the spectrum is, this is strictly political. This is a persecution of our former president, and it's wrong. It's not warranted. And I watching MSNBC and watching Fox News amidst it, it's like you're experiencing two completely different realities.
Yeah, in one channel away. Well, let's call for calm. Let's hear the calming voice of, I think, Marysville Pilchuck alumnus, Glenn Beck.
Oh boy.
I'm going to make a prediction. By 2025, we are going to be at war. We are going to have a new dollar, a currency that probably is coming from the central bank. We'll have a currency collapse, and we will live in a virtual police state.
Oh, good.
I know that might sound crazy to a lot of people.
Well, I don't know who.
It's not far off. The Bill of Rights is gone. Nobody is paying attention. Where are the Republicans? Where are the decent Democrats that can see this is insanity?
See, folks, that's what happens when you let your kids take up magic as a hobby. When they're kids and they're in front of adults all the time, everything's a performance.
Somebody get him a chalkboard.
Yeah, just like Youth in Government 1982 when I first met him. Well, so here's the deal. Unlike Glenn Beck, I've actually been to countries where they've had civil wars. Google the Balkans. And there's a lot of elements that counter what he has to say. The biggest one is that we have functioning courts. That's why I have no doubt that I think Trump has a decent chance in this first trial of and it might be a year away, of being found not guilty. Now, the Georgia stuff, different deal. I still think the classified stuff, because he's the ultimate classification authority, I think he dodges that. But like in the case of Georgia, he's on tape, asking for votes. So there's not really, that's wrong. And when and if they charge him with that, I don't think people are going to be that upset because it kind of had it coming. You're asking for Secretary of State for the state of Georgia to just, pull 18,000 votes right out of his butt or whatever. The New York thing is such a political thing. I think it'll be a test run for these other jurisdictions about, do you really want that trouble? Do you really want to be the prosecutor that put on trial? That was one of the things in Bosnia after the Civil War that kept people from turning in certain very bad guys that were holding the whole country back. And it was funny that, like in the case of Slobodan Milosevic, he was reelected. Or no, I'm sorry, he lost his election, and the Serbian government said, "Oh, well, we're done with you." And they gave him up. They put him on a C-130 to The Hague because he was holding up their accession to the EU and all this. But that was his own people. For the elements to be for a civil war, Glenn, I think you'd have to have something a lot more fundamental. Like, you'd have to have a religious president making certain religions or ethnicities illegal or something. Something so amazingly anti-American. And also, because the primary element in most civil wars in the past 50 years has been ethnicity. And because we're a multi-ethnic democracy, I'm sorry, feel free to buy all the ammo you want. I mean, I have, but not because there's going to be a civil war.
And I would urge people to just view comments about foretelling the end of America with just a shred of skepticism, given our history. We're a resilient country. And also, if you indulge comments like that, there is a self-fulfilling prophecy aspect to that. The more you say it, the more it kind of manifests itself. So I would urge people stray away from those kind of thoughts and comments generally.
And also a completely different environment from 1859 when it was constitutionally possible for a state to secede. That wasn't anything illegal. They sent their notice to D.C. or we're no longer a part of your country. You can't do that anymore. That was a little gap in the Constitution that was closed after the Civil War. So anyway, having seen one or two, Glenn, having served my country, I think I have some insight. Anyway, wait a minute. How'd you get that rabbit in there? That wasn't there. Yeah, Mrs. Beck, that's a cute kid. Anyway, back in second AM 770 KTTH. Sorry about the personal digs there, Glenn.